obviously come from a musical family. Your dad was at a medical practice, I believe, but he also was the house drummer in the Chez Paris Club.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, did he teach you at all? Presumably he did.
Oh, yeah.
At some level.
Yeah. No, he was definitely taught me how to hold the sticks properly like this. He hated the match grippers.
What year would that have been? Because was that kind of before match grip?
Oh no, I'm not that old. No, but so my dad was 50 when I was born, so he was definitely he was gigging in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And sort of retired by the time I came along. But his last drum set was my first.
Right.
And so there was always drums in the house. There was always music in the house, and it was a wonderful card to be dealt in life to have supportive musical parents and older brothers who were musicians as well. One played piano, the other played bass, so I rounded out the rhythm section. It was a natural. But yeah, and he taught me how to read, the old Haskell Harrer books, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4,
Yeah.
Okay, here's how you write out the rhythms.
Yeah.
And he took me to a certain point, but I was also playing music with my brothers and also listening to all different kinds of music. So it was a great way to grow up because it was just music. We weren't putting labels on, well, this is this type of thing, this is this type of thing. We had record players all over the house. There might be Led Zeppelin coming out of one room and Count Basie coming out of another room, or Mozart coming out of another room. It was just music.
It's an interesting mashup.
Yeah, it was a cool way to grow up. And when I was 12 years old, I wrote Steve Smith a letter, and he wrote me back a 6.5-page handwritten letter, complete with a couple transcriptions of stuff from the Jean-Luc Ponty record that he played on in 1977.
Mitigation.
So, I mean, you couldn't have found like a happier 12-year-old kid on the planet. And, this was like right in the middle of like the Journey hysteria,
Yeah.
So that's a feeling that I've always remembered. And, if I can give someone, just an inkling of what I felt just by responding to a letter, like, come on, there's certainly worse ways I could be spending my time,
Yeah.
I'm as long as it's a reasonable question, I'm always happy to help someone out. But yeah, that's a feeling that I've held on to, and I think it's a positive thing to remember how you felt when you were a kid, and you remember, when you're a drummer and you're kind of coming up the ranks, or you're a kid, whatever. You go to something like the London Drum Show, and someone's cool to you. You always remember that.
Yeah.
Someone's not cool to you. You always remember that too.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of weird negative energy that why would anyone want to sort of spread that into the world?
So your dad obviously taught you the basics. Did you study with any other teachers in and around Chicago?
I didn't until. Well, I was in the school band program.
Right.
Actually, because of my brothers, they sort of paved the way. I know the grade system's probably different over here, but I spent 8 years in the junior high school band, which normally you get to spend 3.
Right.
But they just let me in because I was playing, from a very early age.
Yeah.
Went through the whole high school, band program, jazz band, pit band, show band, marching band, symphonic band. The whole deal. But it wasn't until I went to Berklee College of Music for 1 year that I actually studied, one-on-one with a couple different teachers, Skip Hayden, Ian Froman, and then I studied privately outside of Berklee with Gary Chafee.
Oh, it was privately, was it? Okay, I knew you did just with Chafee.
Yeah, with Chafee, yeah. It was kind of scary. Like he had like a 6-month or a year waiting list at that time, and I just happened to call when he had hung up the phone with a guy who had canceled his slot.
Right.
And I said, man, I'm only here for the next 6 or 7 months. Can I have the spot? He goes, can you be here Wednesdays at 3? Like, yeah, absolutely. I said, all right, see you then. Click,
Right.
Like, all right, well, we're on.
So what was the first lesson with Chafee like? What did
I'm not sure. I remember I had the books, and I think we started with some of the linear and fatback stuff.
Right.
Before we got into any, sort of polyrhythmic materials. But he did this cool thing that actually when I teach students, I do this for them because, a student comes in, as I was going into Gary, I was nervous. He hasn't heard me play. He's got to gauge my level somehow, right? So, we'd be in like his basement, there's 2 kits set up and, all sorts of stuff around in his basement. He goes, I got to straighten up some stuff. So just play warm up. And I'm going to straighten up some stuff. So he had his back to me. He was over there, like, straightening up some papers. so that made me relax to just sort of be able to play without him sort of leering over at me. So that's something that I do when people come to me for lessons, so I can gauge what they're doing by not intimidating them, by not staring at them. There's another drummer named in the States named Steve Michaud.
I must check him out.
Yeah, Gary told me that Steve was cut from the same cloth as Vinny, and his life took another path. And he always played, but now he's getting into playing full time, and I think he's offering some online lessons. But he studied with Gary for 4 years, and he just gobbled up all the hard polyrhythm stuff. I mean, he would show me transcriptions of the Frank Zappa bootlegs, 9-10 pages of the most outrageous stuff you've ever seen. And here's this 18-year-old kid that's just like whizzing through this stuff. It's pretty mental. Well, I did one unbelievable session in Los Angeles. That was the music for the trailer of the film The Negotiator, and it was like a Frank Zappa chart. And I looked at the guy, I'm like, you kidding me? That was hard. We had to record that piecemeal, and thank God I was the only one there. We were just doing drums and percussion, because all the stuff was sort of sequenced. If I had to read that stuff in front of an orchestra, it would have been a problem. That was nuts. So that was a hard one. Difficult producers. Yeah, I did a session with R. Kelly, who was not in the session at all. And then after we worked on the song, came in and said that he wanted it to be more like this, and played me a song that had a drum machine. And I had to explain to him, I said, well, that's a drum set over there, and you just played me a track with a Roland 808. I'm not really sure I'm your guy for that. So that was, that's how that ended up.
Right.
Yeah, he was working on dance routines with his dancers, but it didn't stick his head in until it was all done.